Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Northern Kentucky Forum. I am Mark Nykirk, Director of the Scripps Howard Center for Civic Engagement. We are one of the partners in the forum along with the public libraries. And we have been trying to go virtual here since COVID-19 visited all of us, and this is our third virtual cafe, so welcome. We have about 100 people with us today, so glad to have folks from all over. And tonight, this afternoon will be, let me try to remember what time of day it is. This afternoon, we'll be speaking with the directors of our public libraries in Boone, Kenton, and Campbell County and how they have adapted to this new environment that we are in. There is a chat function on Zoom. You can use that to ask questions. What will happen this afternoon is over the next hour, our directors will each talk about what's happening with the libraries, and then as they conclude, we'll take questions, and I will monitor your questions in the chat and try to get them all asked. So follow us on nkyforum.org as we add events. We do have currently a couple of more virtual events coming up. They are small group dialogues using the National Issue Forum format to discuss the issues that are facing us in the 2020 presidential election, and the two topics that are before us in the next conversations. One is on healthcare and one on immigration. So love to have you participate in those and watch for more of these Thursday afternoon cafes. So let's get started. Our public libraries, like all of us, have had to adapt to a new world of COVID-19. These are places that we love to gather, take our children, take classes, hear speakers, and we can't do that right now, but there's still a lot going on with our public libraries, and we'll get to hear about that today. So I'm going to start with the question of just let our directors tell us about the decision to shut down and how difficult that was, and just kind of the process of moving from very much a place where people come and gather to a place that is still active, but you had to shut things down. Carrie Herman, who is the director of the Boone County Public Library District, will start us off. Carrie?
Thank you. The first thing I'm going to say is the week of March 9th was probably one of the roughest weeks I have had in my 30-plus year career. Things changed so fast during that week that a plan that we had on Tuesday by Wednesday morning wasn't right for us anymore because things were just different already. I guess things really started for us on Tuesday when, as we were reading different things and learning more and more about COVID-19, we made the decision to remove toys from all of our locations. You know, we're really big into the early literacy learning hands-on. You know, on Wednesday, because of an executive order from the governor, we suspended all of our outreach to our nursing homes, our assisted living centers, because they were only wanting people in for end of life functions. And we just didn't meet any of that definition. And of course, Wednesday night, my school district here in Boone County became really the first school district to close in Northern Kentucky. And when I got that news on Wednesday evening, I knew that a lot of things were going to be changing for us. So I pulled my system managers together on Thursday morning, and we started looking at what was this going to look like for us, because we knew if kids were taking their education online that we needed to be available. Did we have enough computers? Did we have enough space? You know, and we were talking about already the social distancing. What was that going to look like for us? We canceled programs, we canceled meeting rooms, and you can see just how fast this was progressing for us. You know, Friday morning I came in and we had decided, based on some CDC guidelines, that we needed to quarantine our materials for 3 days after that. So we were working through how we do that. And I was starting to have conversations about what is the minimum number of staffing that we can have in all of our buildings. Because with schools out, I knew that I had parents who were going to have to be home with their kids, and I was looking at a real staffing shortage on my side. And Friday afternoon, we received guidance to close down. So from the state library to match our school districts. So, you know, from Tuesday to Friday at end of business, I had 5 different plans moving forward. And we finally had to shut down at end of business on Friday. And Monday, I brought my managers together and we had to go through, what's our website look like? What are we doing with UPS and mail delivery, and just all of the things like that. So that was kind of our fast moving, trying to keep up with what was happening during that particular week.
For us, it was about the same way. That week before we closed on March the 13th was just chaos. The managers got together physically twice, and then on Friday, we were trying to manage this with email and phones and text messages, and so we created these text message groups of various gatherings, groupings of people so that they would be in the loop on decisions that were being made. The public relations people are trying to put together Q&As for staff so that they would have answers for the public when the public comes in, and getting stuff up on our website. It was really a very difficult week. That final Friday, on Friday the 13th, I think I spent 5 hours sitting in a parking lot, just talking on the phone and trying to wrangle things in one parking lot or another as I moved from one thing to another. It was hard, but we were making decisions based on closing, which we can do for a day, but doing it for an extended and unknowable length of time was really hard. So we wanted people to be able to get their holds, so we made sure that their holds, the hold queues would stay in place. We didn't want people placing holds on things because we didn't know when they would get them, so we had to make the whole collection unholdable. Notifications go out from the library all the time about things that are overdue and things that are on hold for the patrons. And so we had to modify that language and agree on what that language would be. It's really difficult to stop that system, so we hesitated to do that until I think just about 2 weeks ago, we finally stopped the notification system, which is, it's just difficult for that system to stop. It throws a whole bunch of processes into our eyes. So we'll have to restart that whenever we can reopen. We didn't want fines to continue. We knew that. We had to communicate that to people. Marquees had to be changed to say that we were closed, and all of that messaging needed to be uniform so that we were delivering the same message to people all the time, in all formats. Programmers are going on to the library's event calendar and canceling their programs. We had a little discussion about whether or not canceled is spelled with 1 L or 2 L's. In America, it's spelled with 1 L. In Britain, it's spelled with 2. So it's just part of the little interesting things that come up as you go through this.
Dave Schroeder from Kenton County, tell us about your experience with closing.
We had a very similar experience, I think, that Jessi and Carrie did. One of the things that I was able to do was to get in touch with county. I was finally able to get in touch with a county official at the fiscal court level to just see what they were doing, to make sure what we were doing was matching up with what the county was doing, and we were. And they were doing the same things that we were doing. So they, it was hard to get in touch with different people because everybody was scrambling to see what was going on. So that process was nice that we were, at least aligning ourselves with what the county was doing. I was also lucky enough to get a hold of Dr. Sadler at the health department and get her advice on, where we were going and what we needed to be doing. My staff, and I know a lot of them, I see a lot of faces of KCPL staffers here. So, hey, everybody. But all of you who are here, they know that I'm not one that typically likes to close. And so, I really like to keep the library open and keep our services open as much as possible. But, this is just a totally different situation than any of us have ever faced. And so the decisions, which I thought were really going to be hard earlier in the week, became very easy by Friday, because once we were told what we needed to do by the health department, once we got information from the county, and once we got information from KDLA, which is the Kentucky Department for Library and Archives, it made it pretty easy. I will never forget the meeting. I was sitting in this room in my office, and there were like 5 of us on the admin team in the room with me, and then there were 5 of them at the branches, and we all had our cell phones out connecting to them. And so I had like 5 cell phones on my desk, and I was talking to 5 people, and we were all communicating back and forth. And then the decision, once it was made, you know, everybody just kind of chipped in and made it happen, and it worked smoothly. And we were having a meeting yesterday. The closing of the library was the easy part. The reopening is going to be the hard part, which we'll get to later.
Well, let's go to Jessi, if we could go back to you. Now that the decision's been made to close, I think your institutions, like a lot of institutions, you start with what's necessary to close down, and then you start thinking about how are we going to operate, and what but pretty quickly it begins to look like an extended amount of time. So it isn't just like closing for a weekend. It's the doors are closed, but the programming isn't. So what are you doing now, and how did you get things up and running? And I think during this segment, we may see examples from the websites.
Okay. So coming back open, I mean, as much as we could, that took a lot from us. We are good at technology, but recording in your own home a story time and not being able to interact with the audience in the same way that you do in person, that's difficult. It's been I think that's been a learning curve for the staff, but we've been able to do some really cool things. Story times, you know, you can read a book and you can do some songs and things like that, but also some crafts, and trying to think really hard about what crafts kids could make with things that they probably have around their house without having to, you know, go out and buy something. Doing our Dungeons and Dragons programs in person are very popular. We have 50, 60 people at some of those programs, but finding a way to do those virtually and conduct Dungeons and Dragons campaigns online. We've had a Minecraft server for years, so we were able to put together some Minecraft games. And then, you know, trying to encourage people to read online, to get online, to get those ebooks. So staff have been working on reading lists and genre recommendations that are focused on ebooks. They're available in e-form, but also not checked out online. You have to make sure that both those 2 criteria are met. We have it in e-form, and somebody could actually check it out. I did a book suggestion blog for us. And then what we're doing right now is totally, I had never Zoomed before COVID-19, and now I can't tell you how many hours I've spent staring at that little lens on the screen right there, that thing right there. I stare at it for hours every day. In meetings today I met with my Kiwanis group through Zoom. Yesterday we watched a webinar on unemployment. I'll have a management team meeting tomorrow, regional directors of libraries getting together. It's been a busy time these last few weeks, even though the library's closed. I feel like in some ways it's been harder to be closed than it would be to be open. And you can see on our website and just all the array of programming that we've been able to do. You'll scroll down a little bit on that screen, you'll see all the online programs. The digital escape rooms were actually picked up by libraries in Canada and New Zealand, which is kind of cool. You keep scrolling down, you just see all this where it says online program. And I imagine some of this will keep, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Jessi, just real quick, on the top of that website is Miss Jessi's fantasy book recommendations for children. So are those, when you have those lists of recommendations, those are all available by e-checkout?
Yes, sir. So through Overdrive, and if you get the app, it's called Libby, Libby. If you have a smartphone, but Overdrive, and the link to Kentucky Libraries Unbound is actually on our website as well, under digital branch, I think. Download ebooks and audiobooks. And Boone and Campbell are both in the same consortium that provides these things. And then Kenton has its own collection of e-materials, so it might vary slightly from one library to another.
So Carrie, at Boone County, you've had to make this same process. First we close and then we reopen in virtual space. What's that like?
Very different. Although, like JC said, you know, we're used to using technology. So I think we had a little easier time making that pivot than some other industries would have. You know, for us, what we're doing, we took a slightly different tack than Campbell County and even Kenton County. We looked at ours as more of a let's connect people to the experts. So if you go to our Facebook page, our Twitter, our Instagram, all of our different social media channels, what we've been doing is connecting to NASA, who teaches you how to do some different science experiments, or different art museums as they're talking about, here's how you draw this, or how you can do this with clay or something that you might have in your own home. So we've done more of that, and we are just now starting to ramp up our story times, our online story times, because like JC said, it's very different when you're sitting at home and having to film yourself. There's Miss Ginger as she goes by. Miss Ginger is doing Goldilocks there. That was the one that went up yesterday. So it's very different, and it's not easy because it's not like we can walk up to our shelves and we can pick just any book we want to do. We actually have to go to the author, to the publisher for permission to film these story times. And sometimes they'll give us blanket permission, and sometimes it's permission. We had one author who only let us leave it up for 24 hours. We did it, we left it up for 24 hours, we took it down. Next week, we'll be putting out a new story time on Wednesdays and Fridays at 10:30 a.m. So you'll be seeing more of that coming through our YouTube channel. So we'll have a channel there with a playlist of story times that people can enjoy. If you scroll down a little bit, one of the things that we're doing right now, we call it documenting history. We are living through a pandemic. We are living in history right now. So every day at 10 a.m., we post a question. And we're looking for people to give us answers to each one of these questions. What are you thinking about this? How are you handling that? And we're collecting all of these. And after the, when we reopen and life gets back to normal, whatever normal is going to look like, we're going to pull all of this together and make it available to our community, so that there is a record of what happened. We've added databases, you know, Creative Bug. If you want to do crafts, you can watch these videos over and over and learn to knit and make jewelry and different things. We've created early literacy calendars that every day of the month for the year now, you can pick the day and it gives you an idea of something to do with your child while you're in your home. And it's always with an eye towards having the child ready for school for early literacy. We've got tumble books. We stream a lot of different children's videos. A lot of our stuff has been aimed at children rather than adults.
Dave Schroeder at Kenton County. I know this is true for all the libraries, but because I'm a Kenton County resident, I hear about your digital services before all of this. People are always looking in the photo archives and doing genealogy. But now it's all virtual. What was this transition, and what do you have kind of special things from the Kenton County site?
Yes, I've been extremely proud of our staff. I mean, when we shut down, within hours they were coming up with ideas of how we reconnect with our patrons, and so the staff have really been great about coming up with new ideas, volunteering. Most of the content that we're putting out there were ideas of our staff, and so that's been great. We have online chat, which we've had for years, but we're seeing a lot more use of that. So you can still contact the library and chat with them via text or online. We are doing Facebook Live programming, and we kind of focused on setting up days. So Sundays is genealogy, so we do a program on genealogy. Mondays we call Mindful Mondays, which is breathing exercise, meditation, those kinds of things. Tuesday is Tech Tuesday, so we have a tech program every Tuesday. We have story times on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, which are actually, sorry, they're on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, which are geared towards children. We just added one this week, which is up on the screen, which is story time in Spanish. We were requested by the Esperanza Center and a few other folks to provide something in Spanish. And so one of our staff members volunteered to do that, and we started that last week, and that's been very successful. We do a how-to on Wednesdays and Mondays, and we do yoga on Fridays. We're also experimenting with trivia and some other kinds of things. We also have ebooks. So just like Campbell and Boone, we're pushing our ebook collection. We have Overdrive, which is also that Libby app, but we also have something called Hoopla. The nice thing about Hoopla is it offers ebooks, it offers videos, and it offers TV programming, and there's no weight on them. So you don't get put into a, if you go down a little bit more, you'll see Hoopla on there, Hoopla. Hoopla, there's no weight. So you check it out immediately, you get it. And so it's an immediate fix. If you want something right now, it's a good way of getting it and not having to wait. So that's been popular. There's music on Hoopla as well. We beefed up some of our databases to make those available. We're doing staff training as well. So our staff are doing training that supports the staff, which has been great because keeping all the staff together, we're using different technology like we're using today so that our staff are learning from each other. The other big thing that we've been doing for a number of years now, which we really had to work hard on transitioning, was our workforce development program. We have a memorandum of understanding with the Kentucky Career Center and Brighten Center and actually the state of Kentucky to provide workforce development programming. And we switched that over within a day from doing everything in person to online. So everything, if you go to our webpage and you hit Job Search Central, you will find everything that we have available as far as our outreach services to jobs. So if you, not jobs at KCPL, it's actually, if you scroll down a little bit, Chris, you'll probably find it. It should be marked Job Search Central. Or go back to the original, yeah, go back to the main page. And then I think, yeah.
There it is.
Job Search Central. If you go about halfway down, you'll see a list of our programs that we're offering. Our big program is the Northern Kentucky Accountability Group, which meets every week. Before, and this is interesting, before we went online, we were doing it all in person, and we were getting 75 to 80 people a week to come to this meeting. These are people who are looking for work. We've moved it online. We yesterday we had over 100. So we're actually getting more people online than we were in person. I think part of that is due to the number of people applying for unemployment. And we'll talk about that. All three of us will talk about that later on, what the future holds for libraries, I think, because that's something libraries have been doing for a long time. But those are just some of the things. We do a lot of job programming, and we've moved all of that on to, if you go down a little bit further on the page, you'll see the programs. There's a list of all the programs that we do, and they're all online. So we've moved all of that from in-person to online within like 3 days. So that was
before we move to the next question, let me just ask a quick kind of a user question, if David and then Carrie and JC, if you could answer for your libraries. Do I need a library card to access these things? If I do and don't have a card, how can I get one? And another quick question, suppose I have an overdue library book right now. How much trouble am I in?
I think I'm first this time. Is that right?
Well, this just is a quick question. If you will answer that.
Okay. I think for all of us, you can get an online card fairly easy if you go to our webpage and you just search online card or how to get a card. You can get one from all three of us very quickly. We've got a good quick turnaround of getting it to you, either an online card, which will give you a barcode number and a PIN, or actually get a card and we'll mail it to you. Either way works. So you can do that at all three. What was the other part of that question?
What about overdue library book right now?
Yes. There are no fines at this point. We're actually working on a program that we'll probably be announcing fairly shortly about overdue materials, et cetera. But right now for all three locations, and Grant County, I believe, is doing the same thing. All of the books that people have out now, we're actually requesting you not to return them. Hold on to them, return them when we open back up. We do have to quarantine those items, so it's making it difficult for us to, maintain quarantine of those things for at least 24 to, 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days.
We're asking people not to return those at the moment, but there will be no overdue fines when you return them.
Carrie, anything to add to those two things, library card fines?
A couple of things. We took the step of just putting a generic card number right on the front page of our website. So if you need to use one of our databases like Creative Bug, or you need to help your child do homework with some of our homework help, just use that library card if you want to. The other thing is, if you're part of Kentucky Libraries Unbound, we have enabled something called an instant digital card. So if you don't have a library card, but you want to check out our ebooks from Kentucky Libraries Unbound, all you need will be your cell phone number.
JC, anything to add or different in Campbell County?
Just that if you had existing fines, anything that was keeping you from borrowing things before, you can get to the e-materials now. We took away those barriers and to the databases and all of that. So if you were unable to use your card for some reason before, you will not have that problem now.
And just one clarification. Overdrive, which is the Libby app, Kentucky Unbound is a consortium of a large number of libraries in Kentucky. There are a handful of us that are considered to be too big to be in consortium. So Kenton County is one of those. They will not allow us in a consortium. So we have a totally separate collection than what Kentucky Libraries Unbound does. We do have the instant card. We've had that for a number of years. So the same thing that you can do at Boone and Campbell, you can also do it.
Dave, I'm going to start with you on this next question, and I'm sure you're thinking about the process of reopening. It's probably fair to say that you don't know when that will be, which
that is fair.
level of ambiguity to things. But what will happen? What's your reopening plan? Will it happen all at once, or gradually, or just tell us what you're thinking about the reopening moment whenever it comes?
Right now, I have down on paper a 3-phase plan. So phase 1 is getting staff back into the building when we're safe to be able to get them back into the building. And we'll probably do it in smaller groups at first. So we won't call everybody back at the same time, because we have a feeling we'll still be doing some social distancing during that time period. So that will happen in phase 1. Also in phase 1, we will probably be opening our drive-through windows. We have drive-through windows at all 3 locations. And so that's one way we'll be able to actually get physical books into the hands of our patrons again, which is what the biggest request that we have is, when will I be able to get a physical book? So that'll be phase 1. Phase 2, we'll be opening the doors to the public. Again, social distancing will probably have to be, a part of our lives for a while. And so we'll be doing what you know, the supermarkets, Kroger's, Walgreens, all those are doing about distancing lines, making sure that, you know, people, every other computer is being used and people not sitting as close together as they normally would. We're talking about rearranging furniture to make sure not too many people are gathering in one place. The one thing that we're very concerned about, and I was working on this morning, is getting the proper equipment our staff needs. So ordering gloves, getting cleaning supplies, getting masks if we need them. We don't know because we don't know when we'll be able to reopen, but we want to make sure that when we do, if the CDC and the local health department is requiring that we have those ready. And it's touchy right now because we don't want to be buying things that Saini and, you know, the other, you know, healthcare agencies in our region need. And so, you know, we're being very cautious about what we're buying and what we're not buying. The masks, we're not talking about the ones that they're using, you know, in hospitals. We're talking more about just a general mask. Hand sanitizer is one thing that we're having a hard time finding. So, you know, there's just a lot of little things that add up to a lot of headache for us to figure out how we're going to open. Phase 3, by the way, is programming. So allowing people back into the building for programming and what that's going to look like. Because I don't think we're going to be able to have programming where we have 200 people in a room right away. We're probably going to have to do programming where people are sitting, you know, 6 feet away from each other. So that's my 3-part plan.
JC, you're shaking your head at 200, like that's not going to happen. Tell me about the Campbell County reopening plan.
It's sort of similar. I think at first we'll have the staff in and we won't have the buildings probably won't be open at first. We'll be doing more curbside delivery like you see at restaurants, maybe doing home delivery to seniors, opening back up our express units, which are out in Silver Grove and California and Melbourne, actually. And then in phase 2, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to be open every day. So actually we're planning towards being open on certain days of the week and probably for limited hours so that we can clean the buildings in between being open and maybe even having to limit the number of people that are actually in the building at any given time. So I'm thinking it'll be very different from what people enjoyed before. In the third phase, I see us as being open more days and maybe more hours, but still allowing time to clean things. And of course, we're having to quarantine stuff, you know, for up to 4 days while we're open, and taking materials in because we want to keep people, the staff, and the patrons safe through that whole process. So. Maybe by the third phase, we can start doing programming, but with limits right now, you can't have a gathering of more than 10 people. So maybe that's still in place at that point. And so we do programs, but we only allow 10 registrations. I think people will be more interested in using the public computers at first to apply for unemployment, to use the Wi-Fi to apply for unemployment and those kind of things. I think that's going to be a huge need with 22 million people out of work across the United States. I think that's going to be a huge need. So the staff will be helping with technology and helping people navigate these websites and things like that. So gradual reopening, providing what we can to people. I think a lot of people have discovered the joy of a really good book. They've discovered the joy of an author, and they'll want to come in here and get to those authors. Some people have probably lost streaming services that they relied on before, so our DVD collection might be very popular. That's what we're looking towards.
Carrie, Boone County?
We are also looking at a phased reopening, multiple phases like Dave, like JC. You know, I'll bring the staff back in first. And I was reading an article yesterday that was recommending when you start reopening, only bring 50% of your staff in at any one day, because it's not just keeping social distance from between the customer and the staff. It's making sure that we have enough staff between, or enough space between the staff also. So this may mean that instead of having 4 computers open at our desks, we might only have 2, and they're going to be at either end of the desk. So part of that will be, we're going to remove about half of the comfortable seating furniture that we have in our buildings. And when I say remove, we're going to be storing them in our meeting rooms. That's also where we will be quarantining our items when we open our book drops and start having things coming in. Yeah, the next step of that, once we get the staff a schedule set and the book drop open, we'll start allowing holds. And we'll let that go for a few days to let those build up. And then we'll probably open our lockers that we have at the Hebron branch, the drive-through that we have at the Hebron branch, and start looking at curbside service at our other locations. You know, the funny thing is, we had a plan in place before the pandemic hit to do a pilot project of curbside at the main library. And I mean, we knew exactly how we were going to do it. This looks like we're going to implement it everywhere rather than testing it out now. You know, and then, like JC said, I think we'll open at limited hours. And I think we'll open with some very specific times for people who are in the high-risk categories to come in, so that we're not putting those particular customers at risk. And like Dave said, we're having a hard time getting, because we can't open unless we have gloves, unless we have masks, unless, you know, all of that stuff. But at the same time, I just turned around and donated all of the gloves that we had, all of the hydrogen peroxide wipes, and we had N95 masks for our local history department. I turned around and donated all of those to Boone County Emergency Management, because we want those in the hands of the people who need them now. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that stuff for us, and we can't open until we do.
I just want to remind the audience, if you have a question, type it into the chat, and we'll get to the audience questions here shortly. So just use your chat function, and we are monitoring those so that we can relay them to our guests. And again, thank you for joining us. We're going to go to this question, Carrie, and this will, if you'll start us out on this one. One day we will reopen, and I think a lot of institutions are learning during this crisis of things that might be worth carrying forward. Certainly here at the Northern Kentucky Forum, these Zoom chats have been a way to reach the public, and we may maintain some of those afterward. What about the libraries? What are you learning about what works well that might work even after we are allowed to leave our homes again?
We think, you know, some of these programs that we have moved to digital, we think that some of those will live long after we reopen, that there is a market for these digital story times, people who can't make it in at a particular time for the story times we have in the buildings. We're going to keep looking at collecting history as it's happening to preserve for our customers. You know, I think it's going to be a long time before we do programming on the level that we have in the past. Programming was a huge part of what Boone County did. And I think that programming is going to come back online slower. Probably adult programming in person will be easier to do than children's programming, because children don't really understand social distancing. They see a friend, they want to go hug them. So, you know, I think that it might be a while before some of our children's programs come back at a level of what we have done in the past. It's, you know, books will always be here. People will always love the books and want to come in for the books. We've had digital books for 17 years now. And yes, they've been used a lot, but I'm wondering how many people have now made that permanent switch to ebooks, and that's what they're going to be using from here on out. So, you know, I have to get my crystal ball out and look, and it looks very different every day when I look at it.
Dave, what about Kenton County? What is what things might you retain? What have you learned? What that are services the public likes receiving virtually?
And like Carrie said, I think our story times and our other programming online has been extremely successful. We're getting a lot of people watching those programs, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback. And we had plans to start doing that as far back as a year ago, but there was always a reason why we, trying to find a reason why we couldn't do it. And then all of a sudden we had to do it. And, when we hit that strict deadline, the staff got on board and worked with it. And within days, we were ready to go and moving forward. So you will continue to see online programming at Kenton County long after this pandemic is over. I think some of the other things that we have seen is just the importance of the one-to-one contact with our senior citizens. That's one group that I really, it's very hard to serve them right now. And we have a wonderful outreach department. It's actually a branch now. We made it a branch in December. And they're calling our homebound folks, and they're talking with them on a regular basis, just to keep in contact with them. But that group is kind of, lost right now, and they really look forward to seeing staff, and they really look forward to getting those materials. And so we're going to be looking at our outreach and how we're going to beef that up, and how we're going to make sure that when this is over, that we're getting to those folks in a more organized way. We've had difficulty in the past getting to the Spanish-speaking community in Northern Kentucky. One of the things we're hoping is that the Spanish story time will be a thing that we will be able to kick off those services a little bit more and make that community more comfortable with the library as an institution, and make them feel more welcome. And that will be the kind of entryway to get them into our building. So another thing we're looking at moving forward.
Jessi, Campbell County, lessons learned that things your patrons like in the virtual world that'll still be around once we are all shaking hands again, if we ever do that.
Jessi, you're muted.
Your lips are moving.
Right. Sorry, Christopher muted me while that fire truck was going past, so sorry about that. So I couldn't unmute myself.
As long as it's not coming to you, you're fine.
That's right. I mean, libraries are a physical place, and some of what we do is just going to have to be physical. People get faxes here. People, they bring their documents here to get just like personal papers and things like that. We do document destruction. We have the physical collection. As popular as these e-materials have been, they're still just a percentage of what we do in terms of circulation. Our overall circulation is over 1 million items in a year, and we circulated 15,000 e-materials last month. So you get a sense of how that works. But like Carrie said, I think that some people have realized that digital isn't all that bad. There's digital magazines and these databases. The vendors who own those databases have been very generous with allowing us free access or enhanced access during this time. So some of those databases, like the 3,500 magazines available through RB Digital, I mean, they're almost like reading a physical magazine if you want to go and check that out, try it out. But some of those databases have been very popular, like Ancestry.com and Tumble Books, and we'll probably end up keeping some of that. They weren't unwise to give it to us for free. It helps people get used to using it and expecting it. We're probably going to have to, like some of the things that we've learned is just basic hygiene. We had bottles of hand sanitizer out in the branches, but now we'll have some of those stands to use that we didn't have before. just to keep people safe. We've talked about whether or not we'll keep the plastic covers on books. You know, the advantage to a book with a jacket on it is that it lasts longer, and for like a hardback book, it also, you want that picture on there. People want to see that picture of God, what was that guy's name, for Ferraro or whatever his name was. I can't remember. It started with an F. It was on the front of all those romance novels for all those years. Fabio, that's it, Fabio. I mean, people want to see a good cover to any book that they read. They want to read the book jacket, and they want to see what the author looks like. So those things are important, but that plastic keeps the virus around a little longer. So we might have to rethink that. I think that we've moved a whole bunch of money into buying e-materials because we're not buying physical items right now. We can't even get them at the library because deliveries are all halted. So that e-collection is really been built up over the last several weeks, and I think people will continue to enjoy that for quite some time.
Dave, we have a question from the audience that's fairly specific to Kenton County, although Boone and Campbell may have something to add on this. But the question is the ability to access family search records that can normally only be accessed from within the physical library. Anything new on that?
If staff members are looking for a specific document or a specific item and they go to our chat service, we can make that happen. So we can make a copy and scan it and send it digitally. If it's a large collection of materials, it's just going to have to wait. The nice thing about our history and genealogy department, when we did our remodeling at Covington, we moved it onto its own floor. And so they will be able to social distance on that floor pretty well. So once we get that up and going, it should be fairly easy to get to those materials. We have been doing more scanning and indexing, by the way, during this time period. And so there's been lots of new things added to our webpage. So if they go to our webpage in the history and genealogy, they might find some new documents, photographs, and other things that weren't there 3 weeks ago or even a week ago, because we're adding during this time period. So the local history staff is still working.
JC, you say a word about your local history and genealogy access?
We don't have very much in the way of local history and genealogy here. Kenton took on that years ago and has put a lot of money and staff effort into developing that collection, and Boone as well. We have the Campbell County Historical Society, which is of course closed right now. They're housed in the old courthouse down in Alexandria, and we rely on them to provide a local history and genealogy presence in Campbell County. We're a popular materials lending library, and that's where we put our focus.
Carrie, Boone County on family history?
Yeah, I have a local history department. I keep swearing is out to take over the world. They do a lot with a very small staff, and like Dave's, they've been working very hard while we've been shut down. We have 2 online services. If you go to our website, you'll see local history as one of the tabs. We have the Chronicles of Boone County, which gives you history of Boone County. And then we have the it's the African American History Project in Boone County, which is actually growing outside of Boone County to be more of a regional thing. And they've been working on getting materials into both of those so that it's digitized and people have access to it.
We have a question about what to do if you're have a book checked out and you're moving out of the area, and there are some of your all staff on the chat who are answering that question live for folks, which is mail it back or put it in the drop-in box before you leave town. So
yeah, I don't know about the other 2, but all of our drop boxes are still open, so people can return them if they need to.
Ours are closed, so it would have to be mail for Boone County.
yeah.
All of ours are open, and honestly, if you return them to us or Kenton County, then we'll get them to Boone County for you.
Correct.
I think, of course, so many families, parents are learning to become teachers or at least co-teachers, and it's a fine opportunity to have 3 top librarians speaking to the community. We want your tips for how to be good homeschoolers. Thanks for coming to our homes and telling us how to do a better job at it. Dave, you want to go first?
Sure. There's a number of databases. I think Learning Express is a great one that gives you good, solid information on lots of different topics, opposing viewpoints. We have over 100 databases at Kenton County Public Library that give you access to information, how-to information, but also specific information on specific topics. And if you're having problems finding which database is most helpful for you to answer your question, you can just go to our chat function. So if you go to our webpage and click on the chat function, we can kind of direct you to which database to go to answer your question, or we can try to answer it ourselves. We're doing our best to try to support parents at home with their kids. We know it's difficult, and I've been talking to some of my nieces and nephews who have children, and they're in the 1st grade, and some of the things that they're covering in 1st grade, I'm like, really? The parents are relearning some of this stuff, and so we're just doing our best to make sure that people are aware of the resources we have and to use them. And so I think those databases are really key, and use that chat function, and we'll help you find which database will work best for you.
Carrie, wise counsel for parents?
I do have 3 kids learning at home right now. Give them all their own individual space. Otherwise, World War III will break out every now and then. So make sure they have space that is theirs. And then from a library point of view, if you're talking about elementary school, if you go to our website, the bcpl.org website, one of the tabs we have there is kids. And when you go to our kids page, we have a section on homework help, and we also have a section there for parents and teachers. So we have some information that we have pulled together. I would also recommend, if you go to our website in your middle school and high school age, that you look at our research page, because the research page also has, we have books, we have business, we have employment, we have history things, we have all of the homework that you would need, we have teens, Mango, learn a different language, all the National Geographic. So we have a lot of resources there to help.
JC?
I apologize if y'all can hear the construction equipment outside of my office. One of the things that we did while we were closed is we ripped out all the sidewalk in front of the building that I'm in right now. And so we just took advantage of this time when we didn't have any patrons to do something that we were going to do in August. And I told these guys that I would be doing this from 2 to 3, so they waited as long as they can. They just couldn't stand it anymore, and now they're right literally outside my office. But as far as homeschooling goes, like Carrie said, in my own house, everybody has their space, and if you're in that space, we have to respect it. So if you're in your space, then you're working, and we don't talk to you until you're outside of your workspace. That gives everybody you don't have all this chatter going on that distracts people, and that's worked out really well for us. Because all 4 of us are sometimes there at the house, we have to figure out who's where. If you're doing a Zoom meeting or you're doing a teleconference or whatever, that's been very helpful for us. But one of the things that we have all the time that I think would be very good for homeschoolers is the Mango app that we have on that you can get on your smartphone. If you have a Campbell County card, and again, you can get a digital card. You don't actually have to have a physical card to use Mango. Mango languages can help you learn French or German, and there's just some little neat exercises. It takes a little different spin to learning languages. I started going through Caesar's Gallic Wars, learning Latin a couple of years ago, and just really enjoyed it. So I think it can make learning a little less rote and more fun for kids. But the homeschooling is hard. I think that social element is one of the things that's very hard for homeschoolers to get. So when we get back to being open again, we do have programming that is special for homeschoolers to allow them that out of class and together experience with other homeschoolers.
Can I jump in one real quick, Mark? Otherwise, my digital branch manager will wring my neck. If you go to our main webpage and you go to the Fun for Children section, you'll see a section that says homework help. It's very similar to what Carrie was talking about at Boone County. So we have that list of resources as well. It's under Fun for Kids.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have missed the opportunity to see Dave Schroeder's neck ringed on live Zoom. But I certainly thank you for joining us this afternoon, and to the library directors and to your dedicated staffs. Let me tell you that a lot of the comments that have occurred during this is a deep appreciation for your service, for how well you've thought out how to close, how to reopen virtually, and how you're already thinking about the preparation to reopen. There's just a lot of community appreciation for that showing up in the chat, and also, as it turns out, in my text messages to me separately. So I just want to convey that to you because people are appreciative of your service and dedication through this crisis that we're all going through. Folks, if you'll follow us at nkyforum.org, you'll see our upcoming events. Just because of the nature of things, we are sometimes operating quickly to see what we'll be doing next, but there are some events already planned that you can put on your calendar, and we hope to be live again. Our cafes are often in the morning, and we have coffee and bagels for you. So once we're able to do that, I hope we can meet you in person. Today's program will be archived, so you can go back and look at it or share it. Please do. We want the community to, at large to know what's happening. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again on Zoom.